You're listening to a 4x4 Radio Network podcast.
Hey Jeepers, welcome to show
165
of On the Trail with Kevin and Scott. I'm Kevin, the engineer, the tech guy, the guy who reads instructions, uses the right tools, and usually follows those instructions, which will come into play later.
Yes. And I am Scott, the slapstick parts guy that does use a torque wrench under adult supervision because, as I always scream, I need an adult. And while doing those things, we will always share what worked for us and well as what didn't. Mm-hmm. But it's always up to you to do your research, read the instructions, and
make your own decisions.
And make your own decisions about your own Jeep.
Yeah.
Boy, is that going to come into play too.
Yeah.
And follow them.
Hey folks, kind of a, well, I don't know, it might be a sad day.
It's a very sad day.
Because this is the absolute last episode of On the Trail with Kevin and Scott, to be recorded in Riverview, Florida.
Yes.
You're not getting rid of us that easy, folks.
No.
No, we're standing here, and you might notice the acoustics are a bit echoey. Cheap sound effects. Sorry, folks. Literally in an empty house, vacuumed out. We are standing here.
Literally
the studio is clamped to the kitchen bar. As the walkthrough is scheduled in about 3 more hours for the house here. As you know, we built a new home out in the more middle of the state, and Scott moved to the far right of the state.
In between Daytona and Orlando.
Yeah, and which is pronounced Deltona. Mm-hmm. And I'm out in Lithia. Mm-hmm. You know, and that has nothing to do with lithium batteries. But, so we're here at the old homestead, where many a Project Jeep has been played with and modified and whatnot. It's all cleaned out and the sins are erased, and there will be a new owner making a new life and new family memories in this place. I said goodbye to my gator yesterday out back in the pond. Yeah. Looking at my pool and the last thunderstorm in this house.
Currently rolling through.
So, but you know, it got Scott and I sitting here kind of going, you know, this is auspicious, you know, as we talk about endings and new beginnings, because this is by no means an end to On the Trail with Kevin and Scott. We've got many more shows coming and more adventures. And, you know, for those of you who want wheeling, we're both registered for Sheriff's Jeep Fest up in Georgia. We're making plans to get up into Winrock in Tennessee. And, you know, who knows what other surprises. We even found a new local off-road trail, which I really don't know who owns the land yet, so I'm not going to say anything until I know more about it.
Yeah.
But we went out with a little wander, and it was like, woohoo, hey, I didn't know this existed in Florida. There was actually verticals.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun.
And that's going to lead to a couple of ideas. Do you want to take a shot at that, Scott?
Well, I do want to take a quick shot. And it's kind of interesting because, you know, me being the sensitive one, kind of looked down at our Instagram page and realized that, you know, this is... Thanks, Kevin.
I was thirsty. Sorry.
You give a child a toy all day long, you know. The person at McDonald's was kind of weird why the gentleman wanted a Happy Meal, but, you know, let the kid be a kid. But
my Wookiee burger was a bit chewy.
I know. At least you didn't order the Sith meal that's all burnt. But anyways, no, we sat down and I got a little emotional because I realized that in June 12th of 2016. We recorded one. I think maybe the third or fourth time we recorded episode 1 because we both, well, at least I was nervous. But it doesn't matter, though.
Welcome to On the Trail with...
No, it wasn't that bad. It was more like, welcome to On the Trail with your name here. This is... Got him while he was taking a sip, folks. But, you know, and it was kind of bittersweet because, you know, you sit down there and you look at our old studio and it's empty. It's like, man, a lot of memories, a lot of interviews were inside that, you know, that building, you know, especially with Chrissy. And, you know,
but they're not ending yet.
They're not ending yet. And one of the really interesting things is that what Kevin touched about a second ago is that every time we hear feedback from you, the listeners, we love Kevin's tech segments.
You guys are as crazy as I am, but
And,
okay.
and you know, it kind of got Kevin and I thinking, again, we're in Flatland, Florida. Our only chance to do real wheeling is to go, out of state.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of realized that, I did a little cursory Google search, and this is before Kevin doesn't know this. I'm surprising him with this. So the reaction you're about to get is 100% true.
He's scaring me, folks.
Yeah, and he should be scared because, again, every summer, downloads kind of take a little downturn. And, Kevin and I, at least I go, oh, God, no one loves us anymore. And I begin to panic.
And I go, yeah, right. Remember where we started?
Yeah. So,
Oh, we have 400 listeners.
well, the 10 best Jeep podcasts you must follow from Feed Spot blog for 2022.
Oh,
We're number 3 on the list.
cool.
And
Thank you.
And I did that, and I'm sitting there going, "Are you kidding me?" Like, so that kind of was like, okay, they do like us. They really do like us. I basically did a Google search of the best Jeep podcasts out there, and we were
Yeah,
consistent.
but that's not really us.
No, that's the listeners.
That's the people that listen to us. So
And-
thank you if
and
you're
thank
listening
you.
to this.
Because, Kevin and I would have never dreamed we would be this, 6 years into this with over 250,000 downloads.
Remember, I'm the guy who didn't know what a podcast was in the beginning, and I'm serious. That is not a joke, even though Scott uses it at one.
Well, and here's the interesting thing. You guys want tech. We even had a listener email us and say, I would like to see how deep the tech goes for Kevin. Because Kevin can go, how deep does that rabbit hole go? And I'm like, oh, buddy, you have no idea.
But you want to go down to the molecular level of how iron atoms and chromium or nickel and
See, guys, you're about to realize
you have triggered a wormhole in the space-time continuum. I am a geek, but I have greasy, busted knuckles.
let's be honest, helping him move, I found plans to build a full-scale Millennium Falcon. But anyways,
Not quite. That was no.
I'm sorry, that was the Enterprise.
No, that was, I was going to say the full-scale plans were Colin Furs. And those of you who watch YouTube know who Colin Furs is over in England.
Nice.
And rock on, dude. He is. But, and he did build a full-size X-Wing.
Well, that's good.
Not a Millennium Falcon. But,
Well, and then, the next can be a TIE Fighter, which is twin ion engine.
no,
But
he's
anyways,
made one of those, too.
Yes, but again, this is a Jeep podcast, not a geek podcast, but it's the same thing. But this
Spelling's close enough.
Okay, spelling's close enough. So I started looking at some things, and I guess I can say I'm ready in my healing to talk about this now. I have a friend in my life right now, and I've known her for a while. She was actually at Jeep Beach with us, and she got bit by the Jeep bug.
Yeah, it was amazing to see the infection. Just, whoops. I just hit the microphone. It was a, ooh, Jeep, ooh, I want, ooh, and she was fantastic. It was so much fun to watch her eyes open, and she suddenly understood what the draw was. Why does everybody like that antiquated, boxy, inefficient, rollover prone, which they claim, and it's not really true, thing out there, And she understood.
Well, she owned a couple of Jeeps before, and without going too much into it, one of her previous gentlemen in her life took her Jeep apart and left it in pieces in the garage, and they broke up. Ouch. And she was left with the Jeep that she always wanted
In pieces.
and she had no skills how to put it back together. Now this woman does her own demo. This woman does a lot of her own work. She is not afraid to learn. And when she was talking to her dad about this, her dad's like, well, because she comes from a Bronco family.
Ooh.
And
Old Broncos are cool. I love the U100. So
well, and that's what her dad had. And everyone, even other people in her life, have had Broncos. And why don't you do a Bronco? And she says, Dad, there's over 200,000 Jeeps at Jeep Beach. No, I don't care if the new Bronco comes out. I want my Jeep.
The only vehicle that comes stock with friends.
Stock with friends. So we started talking, and again, you're doing some things, and the big thing with me is I've always bolted on things. I've never built anything. I've put stuff on and did things and helped Ron when he was out of his garage do re-gearing. I know how to do a re-gear. I
remember the look on your face with the JK when we had to weld up the front axle track bar mounts because they were egged out, and we're in there with grade 8 steel and fabricating new bushing assemblies and then welding them into the axle brackets. And your eyes were an interesting mix between absolute terror that there are sparks flying off my Jeep. I haven't paid for it yet. And this is really kind of cool because it's not going to be like anybody else's anymore, and it can't be undone easily.
Well, and that's one thing where we had a long talk. And, she said, I want to get a Jeep, but I want a Willys. She wants that. And I'm just like, but she's
Okay.
but she's not afraid. And she wants to learn so bad. And she wants to, she wants to be
Is
part
she
of the
willing
show.
to give up her manicures?
She said, she's quote, I don't care. I'm doing it.
Okay.
And I'm like,
Rock on, girl.
and she's like, I want to build my own Jeep. And, we've all heard this, but over the past, this has been a few weeks in the makings here, guys.
Yeah.
She has joined Jeep pages. She is doing a lot on YouTube. She is reading up a lot of stuff. She's sending me vehicles to going, hey, what about this? So the other day we looked at a,
we were driving loads of my housing leftovers. We had a mover move all the heavy stuff here, folks, just so you know. But we've been slowly repairing and cleaning and, taking care of things. And I noticed on one of my trips what looked like CJ front end sticking behind a fence with a square piece of paper on it. And I told Scott, hey, on the way back this time, let's look. And we pulled in and looked, and there was a 81
CJ 7 with
straight six
air conditioning
stick.
Yeah, and it had the Maxxis Bubba track mud tires on it that were from 81.
They were cracked and
they were cracked,
but
had a
solid frame, solid body. I'm not saying it was rust free. It was the frame was surface rust, but I went through it. And even the floor plans are original. Are they rusty? Yeah, they're surface rust. Are they solid? Yes. Can you hammer on them with your hand? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this thing, and it has the typical older CJ. The CJ 7 doors on the inner panels crack right where the wind wing post is. And somebody had done a beautiful job in but they hadn't welded it up. They'd riveted on like an aircraft, a patch panel in that area. And it and then finished it and painted it. And it looked like, my God, that's gorgeous. I'd love to do a whole Jeep with that kind of
that look.
that look.
But it was a copper color hard top, and relatively new paint.
Well, the backstory that we were told was his friend had bought it so that he and his wife could drive it out to go deer hunting. And the gentleman that was selling it was not the owner. He was a friend. And actually, he showed us his deer hunting Jeep that he'd modified heavily. And this one was kind of cool in a backwoods way. No lift kits other than shackles, but he'd set it up with a built-in dog cage and a winch for carrying deer carcass back. And if you're not a deer hunter, I understand you may be kind of grossed out with that. But if you're not, hang with it, because that's one of the original uses of the Jeep. But and they had brought it home, and whoever they used had done these little repairs. There were no rot throughs on the bodies. Right. It was really weird to have quarter panels that were not rotted out. And then they'd had it painted this coppery, I don't know, orange.
Yeah, like a copper, like a sunburst orange.
Yeah, sunburst orange. And then stuck it in the barn to come back to it, and never did. For how long? How long did they say it was in the barn?
12 years? It was like 12 years, something like that.
12 or 14 years. And he finally wants it out of his barn.
Yeah.
And so his friend, the guy that was showing it to us, went over and helped him get it started. And he said, I had to kind of clean out the carburetor and all that kind of stuff. And it's making a little exhaust leak right here. This bolt's loose. And he was dead honest about it. And unfortunately, while Scott should be saying, or would normally be saying, yeah, and it's now in my stable.
We had a long conversation. She said, well, that's great, but I don't want someone else's half-done project. I want the full Monty. And I'm like, really? And she goes, I want to learn how to weld.
Yep.
I want to learn how to do all this stuff. I want to know every piece inside out of that Jeep. And, Kevin nailed it on the top of the head where he said, she got left stranded once. She wants to know how to fix her own Jeep. And she basically told us flat out, she goes, you guys want tech? What if I built my Jeep? What if we, make it part of the show? The tech segments, Kevin teaching, video, the whole 9 yards, the whole shebang. And I'm like, okay.
It works for me. I love teaching. You know that.
You find the Jeep, and I'm actually, I don't know if Kevin, did I tell you, Kevin, I'm looking at one tomorrow?
Nope. But go for it.
There's a 75 CJ. Mm-hmm. Looking at the pictures, this one's already, there's some ground effects packages molding on the outside of it, which I have a feeling that underneath it's pretty rotten.
Yeah, that was a common thing in the 80s was to put those flares and boxy fenders, although there was a line, I'm trying to remember if it was the Sahara package that actually had that fiberglass bolted on from the factory.
Well, I'll show you a picture here when we get off the air. But the interesting thing is that she understands because she's worked in automotive service centers. She's been in the automotive industry a lot, so she understands what it's like to get into these projects, and she understands when you see that project, you get that call. Mm-hmm. And she told me, she's like, well, that's a nice CJ and it's great, but what's the difference between that and the LJ in the garage now? I said, well, quite a lot actually. And she goes, yeah, but it doesn't call to me.
If it doesn't call to her, it doesn't call to her.
No. And so I'm like, okay. So, and her idea, because she wanted to take the LJ and make it a little bit of hers, and I was okay with that. And she's like, no, that's your Jeep.
Yeah.
You finished building that, besides you haven't got the lift on. I'm like, have you been talking to William?
Yeah.
So.
Oh, well, let's see. William, Madsen, Corey.
Listeners. Yeah.
His Jeep is safely ensconced in the garage.
Yes. And the lift is installed in the garage. It's inside the garage.
But, and we have a friend with a brand new 4-post list that was like, you can come down here and do it anytime.
And I'm going to. And on the line of Metal Cloak and all that, hopefully we'll have them on here, hopefully soon by the end of July.
Well, it will help if I'm actually in one spot for more than a week and you're in one spot more than a week.
Yes. Not a lie, folks. I have put almost 2,000 miles on the Gladiator in 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's still dealing with what was left of his life here, and Scott made some great milestones, and that's one of the reasons our content has been a little lean, shall we say, lately. Is me getting a new house closed, built and closed. There is no garage. Well, there's a garage in it, but there's no barn. But I want to put a temporary garage together while the barn and the shop is built, and then we will have a full-on studio, which will hopefully lead to the goals of we'll be able to video some of this stuff we talk about and give you some visual content we're not giving up podcasting, okay? It's awful hard to watch a video while you're driving to work. And I hear that from a lot of our listeners that, your shows are perfect. They get me halfway through on the drive in to work and halfway on the way back. So we'll keep that going. But we keep hearing please show me.
Yeah.
And in fact, I've got one of our listeners that's local who's sending me video clips right now as I'm trying to help him solve some problems with his 4-liter. Well,
one of the things Kevin mentioned is a while ago is like when we did a lot of these electrical shows. Electrical is a big thing where everyone's like, oh, that's great, Kevin, and there's a lot of questions we get. And Kevin made a comment, this is months ago, hey, I want to do a short video on showing the proper ways to solder connectors or connections.
Or terminate. Yeah. I showed Scott some tools that I use to do pin connections when you're making your harness changes to or edits that make it look like it came straight from the factory, and it plugs right back into the factory connector without filling your harness full of splices.
Right.
And while splices can be perfectly serviceable, you can open up any factory harness and there's splices in there.
Yeah.
But they're all kept to a minimum because every splice is a potential spot for problems. So, but I'll get off the tech side for a moment.
No, stay on the tech side because this is what keeps listeners. But, we thought about this because, while the show format's not changing, and Kevin literally just said this, 15 minutes ago, less than that, is that, the show format's not changing. Scott's changed. I went to school for video editing and audio production and all these things. And I've decided I'm going to really stick to that. I have the computer editing. Kevin has the computer editing. I've ordered more chips for the GoPro, some flash cards. I'm going to take this very seriously where I really want to rehone these skills and relearn the creativity because it's a great outlet for me and it's a great way to further the show.
Right. Well, and I'm going to throw that out to you listeners out there. If there's something that we've covered in the past or something we haven't covered yet and you want to see it, not just hear about it, let us know.
Yeah, on the trail podcast at gmail.com or the Facebook Messenger. And one of the things I really want to keep, Kevin and I are still going to work with the Patreon format, but, I don't want to make people pay to listen to this show.
No.
Okay. But at the same time, though, I don't want a bunch of manufacturers dictating to us what we can and cannot say about their product.
And that's why we went to the Patreon format.
That's why we went for the Patreon format. So I'm trying to keep the idea of paid content down to a minimum because everything eventually will be free. But that's something Kevin and I, we're going to talk about later. It's not a huge issue right now.
He's throwing ideas out that I've not heard before. So.
No. Well, no, like we talked with the Patreon with the videos. Yeah. Like the first 30 days, they would be, Patreons only, and then we'd upload the video to YouTube for everybody.
Yeah, which a lot of the different channels utilize is early access to content. Mm-hmm. But you know what that means for us, don't you?
What's that?
We'd actually have to do them on time, not the day before.
Well, with a whole lot less scheduling.
Hey, folks, this is the show for the 1st. Hopefully it's out on the 1st. I'm sure he'll go home and make sure it's out on the 1st, but we're recording it the day before.
The minute I make the 128-mile trip or 112-mile trip back to the house, I'm immediately going to edit and get it up.
Okay.
Because it's a 4th of July weekend, guys.
Yeah, it is.
And on the 4th of July weekend, please be careful. I want everyone to have the proper digits on their hands and eyeballs so they can read and send emails to us.
Yes, please take care of yourself. And let's face it, no matter how bad it gets, we're still in the greatest country in the world.
Yeah.
And to those of you who don the uniform to give us that freedom, thank you again.
Mm-hmm. And that thunder was like right on cue.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But no,
thanks, Dad.
No, that's one of the, and that's the interesting thing. So Kevin and I are very excited. Again, while it is, again, June 6th or 14th or whatever it was I said earlier, math. This is a turning point. This is something where Kevin and I are really excited about the future. One of the things I'm looking to do is, like little small project with the Gladiator. I see where people have these new LED bulbs when they step on the brake, it flashes the bulb, and that's great. Coming down I-4, believe me, I need all the attention I can get people
that's
to see.
Actually on new manufacturers are doing that in a lot of vehicles. It's called pulsing brake.
Well, what I want to do is on the Gladiator, there's the reflectors in the bottom bumper. Mm-hmm. I bought the European red fog lamps
that go in there,
and I'm going to get a flasher unit. Nothing obnoxious, but just like a quick little burst of flashing, so that when I stop on I-4 on the interstate where it's 70 miles an hour, people behind me can see that because I've had a couple close calls, and I want to make sure I stay safe. But and again, we'll have a hallelujah moment of getting the LJ lift installed, plus my seats. It's bad enough I've moved these seats 3 times, but not yet into the Jeep.
Yep.
We're going to do the.
Right now, I can't see us doing much in my garage because you help stack all the stuff in my garage to the point that my wife can get her car in.
Yeah,
the Jeep is, but it couldn't move right now if it wanted to. Well, I'd have to do a hill climb over the stuff parked in front of it. And the other bay is full of the tools. Like, I know I have a 3/16 Allen head impact. I don't know where it is. What box is it in? Is it the top of the stack or the bottom of the Oh, is it on that corner of the garage? No, it's over here. Yeah, it's that bad, folks.
And to the person who makes the boxes for Lowe's, thanks for having a sense of humor. What does it say? Where it said
a load of bricks.
A load of bricks.
Yes.
Like kitchen, utensils.
Not a sponsor, but check out the shipping, the packing boxes in the Lowe's cleaning and packing section. We got them. I bought a bunch of empty boxes, particularly the heavy duty ones. I think it may be only printed on the heavy duty boxes. And, it's got the check the room, kitchen, bath, blah, blah, books, this, load of bricks.
And of course, me being the one, he marks fragile, like he circles fragile.
I circled fragile because this one was full of glasses out of the dishwasher last time.
And this is why I'm not allowed to have a Sharpie, because I put down in fragile rock. So for those of you of my generation, get that joke.
Or those of you who raised kids from his generation, get that too.
Yeah, that too. But so let me ask, I'm going to post a question out there to the listeners. What was your first project Jeep? Because my first project Jeep was an 88 Comanche. Mm-hmm. That's what made me the love-hate relationship of everything. So that's when we talk about like the draw to the new project. And this is the new part of the show, where like I fell in love with that Comanche. That was my first. I remember opening the hood for the first time and seeing that long straight cylinder or straight 6-cylinder valve cover and going, man, it's like an aircraft carrier into the hood.
Yeah.
I can take and
I don't remember what year mine was. It was a CJ5. Mm-hmm. It was a government issued.
Oh, with the pop top can.
Yes, with the Alaska hardtop, for those that know what I'm talking about. And every time you hit a bump, you hear a...
It's like a Snapple can.
Yeah, exactly. And it technically wasn't mine, but it was issued to me early in my days with the Corps of Engineers. And it was part of the civil construction side. And it was what I used to go to job sites. And it was my job to, check the oil and fuels just like any military vehicle. Because even though it was not OD green, it was...
Please say root beer brown.
It was black. No, It was black. And a little Corps of Engineers history. The Corps of Engineers had different logos over the years. And even though when I came in, we were into the more modern Art Deco, smooth, rounded, rectangular Corps Castle emblem that's still used today. But this thing still had the old meatball, they called it, which was a red and silver and gold castle, very true castle look.
Gotcha.
Scott's looking at me with like a... I'm not going to say floral, but doily kind of loopy edges to it.
Okay.
Like a regular seal. And it was the Corps of Engineers seal, and it had that stuck on the doors. And I had wanted Jeeps, and I'd worked on friends' Jeeps and those kind of things. And this was issued to me, and because nobody else wanted it, they're like, "Well, you need a vehicle." Everybody else was running around those lime green Chrysler K cars that were being issued out from the Army. And they were like,
saved Chrysler, thanks Lee Cook.
Yeah.
But man, were they awful.
They were. But this thing was there, and it rattled, and it banged. And they looked at me and said, "Well, if you want that, you got to go get it running because we don't have a motor pool." It was just sitting there. And so I went out and tinkered with it, and sure enough, and it fired back to life, pulled it into the bay. We did a service on it, oil change, and they were like, "Okay, sign here. Go drive it."
Off we went.
And this was in Washington, D.C.
Right.
And I was down driving from McMillan Reservoir to Del Carlia Reservoir to 4 Mile Creek and all these other project sites. And I knew doors came off. And so I would take the doors off the government Jeep, put them in the back, and ride through Georgetown. For those of you in that area, you know that Georgetown's kind of a snooty-nosed, up in the air culture center. And here I am, puckering through there with my
no doors, Jeep.
no doors, and leaky mufflers. And it did have the straight 6 and a 4-speed. So, I was having, and these rock hard unidirectional military tires. I loved every minute of it, folks. I absolutely loved it. And even though it wasn't technically mine in ownership, it was mine in spirit, and I took care of that thing. And if I could have found that thing again at the end of its lifespan where they were selling it off, I'd have bought it. I don't care. It was just too cool.
So how long did you drive it?
Almost 2 years it was signed to me.
Wow.
We almost lost it. We folks, to go back to a sadder part of history, you may recall that there was a year in the early 80s when aircraft, actually an Air Florida commuter plane, was taking off from Reagan National. Back then it was just National Airport, which takes off, the northbound runway takes off over the 14th Street Bridge between Virginia and Washington, D.C. It was snowing, sleeting, freezing rain, and the aircraft had a problem with the de-icing systems that were done, and it took off loaded with ice and didn't make it, popped off the 14th Street Bridge and went in the Potomac River. Killed a lot of people. There were people that died rescuing people in frozen, ice-clogged waters. And why does that have anything to do with me and my Jeep? Well, one of the jobs we had, the immediate spring, was immediately doing runway overruns and extensions and rescue systems for Reagan National Airport. And that was one of my programs that I was involved in. And so I was spending a lot of time down on the Reagan National Airport. And that was my Jeep that I drove down there. But, of course, as a government vehicle, anybody can use them. I have to leave the keys where somebody can get them.
Right.
Even though I was responsible for them at the time. And a bunch of guys were down at the end of the runway where the extensions were going on. And the jets come in and then they rotate, and turn onto the runway. And you were kind of in the jet blast area. And we had one of our vehicles, a van, hit by the blast. They'd left the door open. And it usually was fine. But if you left the door open, it was like a big windsock. Uh-oh. And it got blown and it rolled down to the bank of the water and was pretty well totaled. And so we were short a vehicle. And so they grabbed my Jeep.
Right.
And said, "Well, this will be better." I'm like, "You're kidding me, right?"
Hello.
You really think? But at least didn't roll down the Jeep.
Okay.
I got a call. It's like, hey, Kevin, sorry, but you need to get down to the airport. Oh, crap. What'd you do? I'm signed for that Jeep. Well, I think it'll be okay.
I think it'll be okay. Oh, man.
And I went down there, and there it was.
On its side.
On its side.
I was just making the joke.
Yeah, no, it was on its side. And they were like, we really didn't want to, do anything until you were here. And I said, oh, God, did you tell me you didn't put the doors on? Well, no, actually, we left them off. We thought if the blast went through, it would be better. I said, good. So we may get out of this one okay. And so we hooked up the dozer chain to the roll bar and very carefully pulled her back on her feet. And they're like, does it start? I said, let it sit.
Yeah, got to drain all that oil out of the spark plugs.
Let it sit for a while. Everything drained down. And then I said, I went and I got a wrench and I hand barred the engine over to make sure there were no hard spots. Right. And we fired it up, and she was smoky as all get out. But within a minute or two, she cleared up. And I looked at it, and I'm like, yeah, let me take it back. And I got permission to take it down to the job that I was working on in McMillan Reservoir, to the shop down there. And I looked around, and these guys were working on, this was also an Army Corps of Engineers facility, the water treatment plant. So I was kind of, hey guys, do you have any body tools here? And the guy says, are you kidding me? I said, do you have a ball-peen hammer and a piece of scrap steel? Yeah, what you doing? I said, do you really want to know? He goes, no, but I may look. I said, you can look. And it had crinkled the fender, and there was a few lines here and there, and I didn't want to be held accountable for it. I mean, we took all kinds of photos, but I just pulled it over into the bay and sat there and went, ding, 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 and sat there and played body work all the way around it. And the guy was looking at me, goes, you're pretty good at that. I said, no, I'm not, but this will work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically flat black.
Yeah.
So how straight does it have to be?
Exactly. Well, the important part is, though, you gave new life to it.
Oh yeah, I put it back on the road, and back in, I'm going to say it was 83 or 84. Here I am, bebopping a CJ5 in Georgetown with the Mercedes and all of the fancy cars, and people were looking at me.
Mm-hmm.
Who was that scruffy guy with the beard and the cowboy hat
and the Stetson? Yeah, I was gonna say. Oh, if I could only upload the pictures of you and your Stetson. Oh man, like you uploading pictures of me with hair.
I have to find some.
Oh, believe me, I got tons of them.
Oh, okay. But anyway, that was my first Jeep. But and I've heard all about your Comanche.
Yeah, the Comanche was fun. So again, I can understand like even though the YJ after that was really fun, and I did a lot of work to that. So I can understand Autumn's idea of bonding with your first project Jeep.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, Autumn, if you listen to this, I'll be happy to teach. Mm-hmm. As long as you're happy to learn.
Oh no, yeah, she's really excited. So we're going to go ahead and work on some of that, which will definitely be a fun little foray into everything. But again, so I'm in the market for a project Jeep. I have a feeling it's probably going to be near a frame off restoration, because she even started asking questions. She's like, "This thing says fiberglass tub," and I'm like, so let me ask you this question, Kevin. Is a fiberglass tub really a doom if you are looking at a project Jeep? Mm-hmm. Now you're looking at, like I'm doing right now, like she wants to stay pretty much, she's only 21 years old. Now that's not true, but a woman will never tell her age. So she's looking at the wheelhouse between, if she's going to go the CJ route, like the newer style, she wants like 74 to 76.
Okay.
But she also wants, one of the, it's a CJ two-way. Is that the one like John Carl had?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm getting,
there's 2As, there's 3s, there's 3As, 3Bs.
I'm still learning all the alphabet soup. But so she decided about, I'm trying to steer her a little bit more towards the CJ, because the 70s and 80s or early 80s.
Honestly, until she's very familiar with it, and if she's using it as a commuter, I would stay with the CJ7 or newer.
Okay.
Because if you go backwards, the 5s are fun, but they are very short wheelbase and therefore prone to tipping.
Now, what year was the CJ5 till?
I'd have to go look it up. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Because we're looking at 70, but 75, 76. Just
look at the doors. If it has the hip notch in the bottom of the door to the backside, the latch side. If it's got a big curved notch out of it, that's a 5. Those are the short ones. The CJ 7s were like your YJ's doors, the rectangular doors.
Okay, so the 81 we looked at was a CJ7.
By far, yeah.
The one we're looking at tomorrow is definitely a CJ5 because it has that swope, and on the other side, it's got like where the fuel thing used to be.
Yeah.
But now it's in the back tailgate area.
Gotcha. But yeah, if you open the door and there's a bite out of the latch bottom corner, that looks like about a 12-inch pie tin, and that the door opening has that haunch in the rear fender because the rear tire's tucked up that close to your butt.
Right.
That's a 5.
Okay, so back to my original question. Is a fiberglass tub something you would want to stay away from? I know you have to terminate all electronics back to the battery prick.
Well, you have to create a grounding network, but that's not the reason. Okay, this is one of those conditionals. There are cheap, yes, folks, you hear the thunderstorm out here. It's 4:04 in Florida. It's time for a thunderstorm.
Yeah.
At least here on the western seaboard, or western, Gulf Coast. There were good fiberglass tubs that were actually a great thing to have, and then there are poor ones. There were a lot that were made with plywood cores, and they were not well sealed, and they suffered the same thing as plywood fiberglass boats.
They rot.
They rot out from the inside out. Bolt holes let water in. There were other ones that were done with something like an early version of the Venacell, which is a foamed product. It wasn't then, but, or different things, or multi-layer fiberglass, that they can be really strong, rust-free bodies.
Okay.
All right. But again, it boiled down to, how was the weave done? Was it chop strand? Was it woven mat? You don't care really. Oh, fiberglass. It isn't until somebody hits you.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's a whole different, you want it strong, but you also don't want it to be twice the weight of a steel body.
Yeah.
However, let's say you find a fiberglass project with a really good condition frame with everything else you want. You can go to an aftermarket body like a Don Juan Jeep
like a
repop, and go back to steel. You couldn't do that when the fiberglass was king. So, there are wrong answers everywhere you turn, but there are also right answers everywhere you turn when you're talking about a fiberglass body.
Okay.
A lot of things you're going to find is things like the drip lip where the soft top clips may not be there in a fiberglass body, or it might. The doors might fit, or they might not, depending on the molding. So, I don't know.
That's one of the
if
things.
I had a choice, I'd go with steel because I can give me a torch and a piece of 20 gauge steel. I can.
Well, we got floor plans everywhere in Deltona because there's not a whole lot of like cameras out, so I can get all kinds of like floor plans. They're gonna still say stop on them, but I can get all kinds of floor plans. So I'm joking, people. I'm joking.
Okay. Okay, dude.
No, I'm joking, guys. But no, because that's my idea. Is that if I'd rather find one that needs a little work because again, you can cut and replace steel. It's really hard to cut and replace fiberglass. That's my opinion.
I would disagree with that, but okay.
Well, because again,
I can make a fiberglass repair that is as strong as the original and disappears completely flat.
But like I say, if the wood's rotted inside the tub, that's what I'm talking
not the glass.
Yeah, gotcha.
It's really, heck, if you're going to go radical, get a fiberglass one that's in decent shape and use it to pull a mold, and then make a Kevlar body. It'd be lightweight, it'd be thin, and it'd be bulletproof.
Well, luckily where I'm at, the crime is not that high, so I'm okay with that. But
it's not idiot proof, though.
But so basically, a fiberglass body won't doom the project.
No, but it will. The problem with fiberglass is exactly what we said: is that everybody kind of goes, "Huh." Whereas if you've done a steel one and you brought it back to life by welding in panels, whether they're patch panels or self-made panels. As I've said before, there's a YouTuber out there called Metal Shaper, and he does a lot of Jeep fabrications. Now, he has a lot of specialty tools, but the idea is that he can build any panel for any Jeep by hand in reasonable time.
Yeah.
and he builds it out of plain sheet steel. In fact, for the older Jeeps, he can match the gauge of the older Willys style Jeeps, whether it was from Ford or whether it was from Willys itself, or even, and he can make the reproductions downright to actually putting in those oddball in between run, production run units that had maybe, well, in this one, the bracket for the fuel tank was offset, but it was only for 500 units. And then they moved it to those kinds of things. The antenna mount was on the passenger side, and he's a great one to watch.
Okay.
And very informative if you look at what he's doing and not just trying to copy him. He really tries to teach. So,
Okay.
So I would lean away from the fiberglass for a first project Jeep because that's a different skill.
Right.
And so you're going to learn how to do glass work.
The most important thing, I think, honestly, is that it has to have a strong frame. The backbone has to be there.
Yeah, I would stay away from, we fixed baby TJ. Shane's little TJ had the rusted out haunch, but we used a engineered and designed replacement frame member.
Right.
And then still made sure that we welded it in and then double checked our welds. And it very doable, but is that something you learn your first time welding on?
Right.
You want your first time welding and learning that to be on body panel repairs, things that, okay, if the weld isn't perfect, it doesn't matter. There's more than enough strength there. I liken to say that the greatest place to start learning to weld is on pieces that are stitch welded in because, okay, well, gee, that stitch weld doesn't really too good. Stitch in another one.
Well, that's what my thinking was too. Is for that reason because even though you do find one with a fiberglass tub, that obviously the body rotted away. So what was the real condition of that frame? While the rest of the body rotted away, was there neglect? Was it a Northern Jeep, or was it just?
Folks, we have this is out of the blue. Even though we thought of it last time, we figured something out in the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, we do. We have a new test we're going to run.
We might be able to do it this weekend or next weekend.
Yeah. The typical thing that rotted out baby TJ, and now I didn't name it that, but that's what the folks over at Gulf Coast Drive Shafts, they named it, or actually the co-owner, she named it.
TJ stands for Tetanus Jeep.
Yeah, this is, they rust out from the inside. The CJs, the YJs, the TJs themselves, they all accumulate stuff through manufacturers' holes, cutouts for bolts and things like that, and it sits down there and collects moisture. If you live in a salt shaker state, you know what I'm talking about. It rots out in a heartbeat. If you play on the beach, like I saw some people at Jeep Beach, it's going to rot out there. We were doing something else having to do with a roof drain on this house that plugged up.
Yeah.
And I bought something for a whopping $60 that when we were done, and I got to give full credit to my co-host over here. He looked at me, he good. Could we use, all right.
Sorry, I had to use the button's there,
He goes, how do you think this would do at cleaning out a Jeep frame? And I think it's going to work pretty dang well. And we are going to try it on his Jeep, my Jeep, any Jeep.
I would say probably mine first because we're getting ready to install that lift.
Yep.
But because it made me think, because I remember we got an email from one of our listeners that said, hey, what angle does Kevin park his Jeep when he does it? I'm like, you'll have to ask him. I'm not really sure.
Right through that door, you see that back slope there that I no longer own?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me hold the microphone closer. Can you guys see it? Sorry.
It's probably a 30 or 40 degree angle, not slope. Nothing that you'd have any qualms about. I drove my pickup truck up and down it, and it's not even 4-wheel drive, but it's steep enough. I would not park a Volkswagen Beetle sideways on it. It might kind of go bloop, bloop, roll over and say, scratch my tummy.
Ow, clang, ow, clang, ow, clang.
But the idea is that it's up enough that materials drain out as opposed to just collect at the other end of the frame. Anyway, the product, I have a 4-inch drain that I put a collection system from one side of my house where water was washing everything away. Speaking of what it's doing now.
You keep doing. I'm going to look real quick.
He's got to go take a look. And it started back flooding into all of my garden areas. And
Still working great.
it's still draining, isn't it?
Still working great.
And I had to figure out how to clean it out because, of course, I'm selling the property. And so I broke down, and I'd seen this product on a couple of YouTubes used by professionals. And there's now a small version of a sewer jetter, which is a long 1/4-inch high-pressure hose. And on one end is a nozzle. And the nozzle has a small tip facing forward and 3 or 5 jets angled backwards, i.e. do not start this thing up while holding it.
Yeah.
And you push it down the hole as far as you can that you're cleaning out. Make sure you're not anywhere near where the back kick is. And then you trigger your pressure washer. You hook it up as a long, flexible nozzle on your pressure washer. And the 3 jets drive it backwards. And the
one facing forward.
one facing forward acts as a cutting blade kind of a thing. And when you hit your clog, you kind of bounce it back and forth, and it punched through that really, really well. And then I ran it backwards the other way. And when I did, then the push jets that face backwards at an angle washed the sides of the walls down. And he was down there as it was cleaning out everything from old roof debris when I had the roof redone 2 years ago, leaves,
ant nests,
and everything.
Hoffa's wristwatch.
And that's when he looked at me, he goes, would this clean out a frame on the inside? And I'm going, you know what? A sewer jetter that pulls itself through the frame, blowing the debris backwards, followed by like an Eastwood interior, frame coating kit, like a rust kill and then a coat kit. This could be a new low buck. Because like I said, this whole kit with a 100-foot hose, which is way long, you get by with a 50-foot kit.
Yeah.
Would easily go down the length of a Jeep frame. And, it's one of those you'd have to be careful because, of course, when it passes by that frame hole or that tie-down point, you're just going to hose water out just as well. But you know what? If it could peel off the rust and the crust and rinse out salts and dirts, and then as you pull it backwards, kind of funnel it back, and you can kind of work that stuff out. So we're going to test it and see if that's a heck of an improvement. Because if you tell me that I can clean the inside of a TJ, CJ, YJ, JK, any Jeep frame, and if I have a pressure washer and add $60 to it, and I can have a clean frame ready to coat. Now, this is just clean it, not the rest of the product.
Yeah, not the Eastwood, you said.
Yeah. So, Eastwood's just one of the brands that came off the top of my head. There's Rust-Oleum makes an inline. There's paint cans with a special spray nozzle on the end. I'm sure if any of you are doing any work, you know what I'm talking about. And they come with a long, big plastic hose that's kind of stiff. And it's got a nozzle that different ones, a fan nozzle, a radial nozzle that spins, and you basically shove it down and start spraying and pull it back and forth, and it coats the whole inside of the frame. I'm sure it's the ugliest, most Jackson Pollock kind of smearing of paint everywhere, but I don't care. We want paint.
Did you get that on the biggest online retailer?
Yeah.
Okay, well, if I can find it, I will put a link to it on the show notes.
Okay, well, I can find it and send it to you this evening and say, hey, here it is. So it's going to be a neat idea, and I was like, this is really going to be a cool little bit of DIY tech.
Yeah, that's one of the things we would like to do. Hey, and the GoPro's waterproof.
Yeah, it can get soaked.
Yeah, so we can definitely...
Can the guy holding it get soaked?
I don't care. Do you mind the smell of wet dog when we're done? Because, the constant gunner hair. But these are the kind of things I was thinking about. Make a good video. Plus, we kind of like impromptu the garage segment there, which was kind of nice.
That's fine.
But these are
I don't have a garage right now.
Impromptu yard segment.
This is technically a kitchen bar, so I guess this is a bar segment? Bartender, whiskey. No.
We're leaning on it, so it's on the bar with Kevin and Scott.
Yeah, this is a kitchen bar, the one the sink mounts behind, folks, so don't get you any ideas up.
Exactly.
The booze cabinet moved a week ago.
Yes. But, no, again, that's everything coming up. And again, we appreciate all you guys' support. We really do. This has been a labor of love, and especially when we went to Jeep Beach and saw everyone again. That was really cool. But
that was fun. And we appreciate your patience while we all go through the little altercations, maybe even big altercations that life has thrown at us over the last year and a half.
Speaking of big altercations. November coming up is Crawling for the Fallen.
Yep.
And some information was leaked that
sad information.
There are a tremendous amount of names this year.
A large number.
So,
and Chrissy, don't worry. Yes, we will read them as tradition. We may have to do it in sections, and I'm sad to say that. That's horrible, but we're going to get it done. So if you guys check out the Off-Road United, because they are selling coins, online. They are going to have donations and stuff like that this year. Because of everything, everyone's feeling the pinch and everyone got hit hard. So just keep that in mind. And again, it's a great event too. And just remember, support all your friends that are buying electric vehicles because you'll need the gasoline they won't burn. You're driving a Jeep.
I got nothing, man. Guys, he shut me down. So anyway, no, I'm glad it's coming down in price a little bit, especially after driving 1,000 miles last week.
Yeah, it went up 200%, and now it's down 3%.
That's okay. I'll take it.
Yeah.
But no, that's pretty much where we're going to go. But I'm tired, and we got to swim out to the truck and to pack up all the gear. Anything else you want to touch on, Kevin?
No, I think that's it, folks. Again, thanks for hanging with us. And we're going to hang with you, and I'll keep answering your questions. And I don't know. No tech's too deep for me. I love learning. If I don't know it, I'll go learn it because it's fun. And we will. Well, we did some impromptu wheeling, as Scott said. He was kind of giving me a little bit of grief last week about, we haven't been anywhere. And I said, yep. And we were driving the Jeep. Why did we take the Jeep? I got out of the garage for some reason just to move it.
Well, because we checked the fluids on the TJ. There was a puddle of each.
Oh, that was right.
It was like, this thing needs to get, TJ needs some love.
Yeah, TJ's a great vehicle, but it's not much at moving a house.
Yeah.
Opposed to the F-250, its garage mate is a little more effective at hauling. So we ran out to lunch and to get some stuff, and I said, look, I have seen lots of rigs down this way. I now live here. Let's go. And he's like, okay. And then we went down there like, wow. But somebody was down further the trail. So we didn't go real far. Plus, I was still moving stuff. And so we're coming back, and there was an option of the easy way out or the
fun way.
The fun way. And he looked at me. He says, we didn't lock in the hubs. I said, nope. We didn't disconnect. Nope.
That's when Kevin goes, you're here with me, which means I'm pushing if needed.
And so we're going to go for it. Off camber and up a sluice, probably about a 15 to 18 foot vertical. Not huge, and it wasn't all that vertical, but it was enough that, it was kind of fun. And I got the old fashioned Scott grabbing the what bar.
The 3-point turn. Or no, the 3-point grab hand. The right hand, left hand, but.
I guess we'll iron out the seat cushion later.
It's fine. But it was fun, and that's going to be. And I found a way to magnetically mount some GoPro cameras. So
we want to get back to that.
Oh man, that's going to be some cool footage.
And I want to show. It's always fun because people still ask me. It's sad, but they still. Well, what's your suspension on your Jeep? And I said it's a metal cloak, and I'm not a sponsor.
Yeah.
But it's their Gen 1. And Metal Cloak's original Game Changer Light with the Old Man Emus. And it still never ceases to astound, and it keeps the wheels down, which is kind of important if you want to go up.
And you want to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
So we'll have some video of that soon. Hopefully we can show up on the Facebook page and that way you guys can enjoy and see what we get to do. But until then, I think next time we go, I think we should lock those hubs and get ready to put that Jeep in 4-wheel, especially driving home in this rain. Yeah, if I could. You can. I can't. Yeah. I'll lock the rear diff in the Ford and hold on for dear life as the almost bald tires hydroplane their way along. That should give me better fuel economy, though. Exactly. So, guys, again, we'll see you at at Pickens County Sheriff's Jeep Fest this fall if you're up there in Pickens County, Georgia. Yep. And we will be up there with both rigs. I'm still not sure. Scott may bring both. Yeah. Hypothetically, the The LJ and
the LJ and the Glad, using the Glad to flat toe the LJ so that he can wheel the Glad a little and get around the actual obstacles with the LJ. Mm-hmm. So that should be fun.
Yeah, that'd be definitely a lot of
kind of
fun.
like the frigate trying to get the nuclear aircraft carrier out of the way.
Exactly. That's what we do.
And me, just my little TJ.
Well, hey, while we're up there, we need to make sure that we take pictures and memories and take our trash with us and leave nothing behind.
Every time.
I did that wrong, but we're going to be wheeling legally and treading lightly for the most part.
Yes, we are. And Don, we will get to you guys and get you on the show. We promise.
Yeah, no, and that's going to be happening here soon. So with that, we're going to sign off. And again, thanks for everything. You have any comments, questions, or concerns on the trail podcast at gmail.com or send us a Facebook message.
Yep.
One of us will answer.
Sooner or later.
Exactly.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Proceeding has been provided for entertainment only. Proper service and repair procedures are vital to the safe, reliable operation of all motor vehicles, as well as personal safety of those performing those repairs. Standard safety procedures and precaution, including the use of safety goggles and proper tools and equipment, should be followed at all times to eliminate the possibility of personal injury or improper service which could damage the vehicle or compromise its safety.
What he said. Thanks a lot for listening, guys. You guys have a great day.
Bye.
This has been a Bent Axle Media production.